somewhat similar ways that you did, okay? So in the short term, we had a number of topics that we were interested in. The ones that have the red margins are the ones we're actually measuring, okay? So like this group said, and we can send these slides to you. We can make this PDF presentation available to all of you. So don't worry about if you don't take pictures, don't worry, we will send it. So like the short-term group said, we wanted to see whether the students, the participants, the attendees, whichever learned the content. So in this case, the responsible science, or the chemistry, or the whatever. We also, since we're teaching active learning, so new pedagogy, we wanted to see whether people would get this. How and what it is that they sort of understood and how they practiced it within the confines of the activity. So the institute, the course, the workshop, the whatever. And for us also, because this is, as Alistair said, a networking opportunity, because it's a regional meeting, and so many different countries come together, or in the cases of Egypt, it was a country-specific meeting, but people didn't really know each other, either from the same universities. Yeah. They didn't know each other. So it's about establishing connections and collaboration so that you can move forward in, there's strength in more than one person. So these were the things that we decided we can in fact measure with a reasonable expectation of success for short-term goals. When we talked about medium term, and remember for us this is about 3 to 12 months later, we thought that how can these change over time? So if people started talking with each other and connecting with each other initially, does this lead to an expanded network? All right, so from the 2 or 3 here, how is it back home? Has it grown? Has it, changed? Are there difficulties? So measuring the expanded network. When we talk about confidence, about pedagogy and about the content, these go together. As you teach, as we teach, do you become better? Are you more confident? Do you step out of your comfort zone and you start adding new things to the course or to the way you teach it? Do you change? Do you adapt? Do you make it more difficult? All those changes, which we call them increasing in confidence, right? That's for all of us. It's different to give your lecture first time, and then it's different when you give it 5 times later, and you have become more proficient. You have encountered students, you have been face-to-face with difficult questions, you start thinking about things, you read more, you go more in depth, which is something that is, for us, something that we always are concerned about, because we teach in our institutes, for many people, the topics that we discuss are sometimes for the first time, or they've thought about them very, very briefly. But we would like people to not just do a first workshop, let's say, using the materials we gave. That's logical for the first time. But if this thing continues, the idea is for people to dig deeper and start reading more materials and start thinking about their own, making the lectures their own. Not just saying, okay, this is what we got from me now, 1, 2, 3, whatever, but going beyond that, going deeper, or expanding in the topics. Not just, the 4 or 5 we were able to discuss in the 5 days of the Institute. Because under responsible science, there are millions of things one can discuss. Some topics are easier to teach than others, and so people go into them once they become more confident in the things that they do. And this is increasing in the knowledge of content and of pedagogy eventually. So these are medium-term things that we were interested in. And those then again change when we go into the longer term, down the road, 2 years from now, 3 years from now. Is there a curriculum in a university, in a department, in a country? Do you have such things to show? Is the effort still on the individual or small group basis, 3, 5, 10 people that have the same mind, the same ideas, or has there been a bigger, deeper change, that affects more people, more students, more faculty, more colleagues? So, meaning, is there a curriculum? Is there a more sustained discussion about the topic in the country? Is the discussion improving? This is about responsible science, but it can be a question for any number of topics again. And then, is there change in the network, right? Has there been broader network? I think to all the years that Liz has been doing this, I'm not sure that there's really an extensive international network. I think it's still very much individual efforts in individual countries. Some countries have more, but more countries have less, right? I don't think there's a true international network to say, this is it.
And there's an international meeting,
Yes,
but it's still
every
not
2,
a
3
court-
years or
every
so.
3 years.
That's about it, okay? So these are just our thoughts and the way we mapped this out. So let me see, and so I'm going to show you some of the ways that we are assessing the short-term and the medium-term outcomes that our group has come up with, okay? So this is for the short term. So we had the content, and we had the pedagogy, and we wanted to see about connections, networking, discussions, and collaboration. So if you remember, and you have these here as well, and as was mentioned by this group too, we did a pre and a post assessment, okay? And you all, most of you did a pre and a post assessment. You devise it, you put the questions, you give it in the beginning, you give it into the end, okay? That's a standard thing. But in the institute, people also presented, right? So there were group work at the end. People presented. So whereas we have been able to do analysis of the pre and the post, and I'll show you this in a minute, and we have been unable to use the data that we got from your presentations. And we did create a rubric, a scoring sheet about the presentations. And we used, the facilitators used it. You remember, you've done this, we've done it. We have not been able to calibrate it. So we don't know the baseline for that. And we have the data, we have not been able to analyze it and use it yet. So it's not easy. Even if we think about it and create a tool, if we don't validate it, it's not easy for us to use it in a meaningful way. So about the connections, we have a survey that you all have taken a month later, and that gives us some information about this. And about collaborations, we looked at the group work, the way it was morphing during our institute, okay? And this is something that the facilitators discussed every evening after the day. And we have that data as well. But we cannot, even that one, we cannot yet find a way to calibrate it and be able to use it. Because it's still very individualized and it's still very subjective. And we do not have yet devised metrics that enable us to take data and use it from that. But these are just examples of things we have devised to be able to analyze the kinds of outcomes we're interested in. For the medium term, some of it is a bit easier, okay? So we want to see how many people still discuss responsible science, how many people still deal with it, teach it or whatnot. So the grants that we got per country after people left the institute, each institute, is a measure, okay? from most people that attended our institutes, we got applications. Individual applications, group applications. Many people were participants in more than one application, okay? This is reflected in the number of grants. So that is, is an objective number we can have. The grants themselves deal with different topics and use different pedagogy. Liz talked about the fact that the grants from this group were very multifaceted, okay? Many topics per workshop, per activity, per whatnot. That's something else that's tangible to say. We have so many about mentoring, so many about dual use, so many about this, so many about that. One way to see whether people are improving and are still continuing to work on responsible science is to see whether people have gone to conferences. Have they presented there? Are there publications coming out of this? There's one publication that came out of the Egyptians who, in MENA 1, after MENA 1, one of the Egyptians created an association of medical students in Ain Shams University Medical School, and that association has been active and did a lot of work on this topic of responsible science with him, and that has been published. That's the one that I know of all the institutes that we've done. That's the one paper I know that has come out of it. Okay? There have been a couple of conferences that people have gone to and presented. So, not so much, but that's not unexpected. Responsible science is a difficult topic to find places to present. And do we have an expanded network? Every institute brings more applications from the countries, especially the ones that come back. I think I mentioned Egypt yesterday as an example, from MENA 1 to MENA 2. Yemen is a similar example from MENA 1 to MENA 2. So is Morocco. So whenever you have more opportunities for people to come back, you have more opportunities for that country for the people in that country to act as ambassadors. So you have more applications per country. That means your network, your interest is increasing. These are tangible things you can measure in our case. Okay, so to summarize, these are what we could use from everything we devised to assess. The pre and post assessment, the facilitator survey, the survey after 1 month, the number of grants, and the number of people who applied to subsequent institutes for us. So, if you'd like, we can spend time going over it, but we don't have a lot of time, so I'd rather not spend time on the math. This is the way that Clarissa devised for us to how should I put this, to validate the way we scored the pre and the post assessments. And so what I wanted to do is to show you this graph, which is not different from the things, again, that you all reported. This is a comparison between the pre and the post numbers in each of the 4 institutes we're evaluating. So in the institute in India, in Egypt, the first in Egypt, MENA 3, and the second in Egypt. So the graph shows that there has been knowledge gained, has been experience gained, okay? Whether this is going to last, we don't know, like you don't know. This is just before and after the event, which is something you all show in your assessments as well. So either it is a 2-day workshop or a 5-day meeting, the outcomes remain the same. And we are going to talk about the first four questions of the survey. These are just comparatives between each of the 4 institutes. In each of the questions, these free open-ended questions that we asked in the pre and post assessment, in each of these there has been a gain, or in most of these. Whether there is statistical significance in all, there isn't in all. And I don't even know whether it means anything if there is statistical significance, right? I'm not sure that it actually means something, a tangible something. These are data from the 1-month survey, okay? So after people left and they had about a month or so to think about and internalize what we did, the survey asked them several things. This is about what it is that, what are the priorities that people thought most important after they left, after a month passed. What are some of the things they would like to keep on doing? And the most important things were funding, okay, a no-brainer, right? Everybody needs money to do stuff. If it's possible to have a follow-up meeting, and whether we can have similar institutes. All right, okay. I mean, this is good for us in the sense that what we have devised as a type of educational tool speaks to people, gives them something that they would like to emulate. Great. Then we asked people what were some of the most effective aspects of the institute. And there were many things, like the meeting place, the collaborative work, and so forth. Active learning is number one, which is somewhat of a surprise to those of us who started this to talk about the content, because the pedagogy is in fact what excites people. The new way of teaching, which is wonderful, but it was an unexpected thing. The second thing is meeting new people, the power of networking within the countries, between the countries, right? Power of networking, and then responsible science, I mean learning about it. Again, very good. And the last data I'm going to show you is this. What were the most ineffective aspects of it? Because, you know, everything has a good side and a bad side. Or, you know, a less effective side, let's not say bad, less effective. Not enough networking. I don't really know how to modify that. Meaning to spend more time together, meaning to have less time in didactic and more group work. This is very interesting because we have to think how exactly to change it. And of course, the most, you know, a lot of workload. Yeah, it's a packed meeting for 5 days. Otherwise, we would have to be there for 10 days to work half days. But who can be there for 10 days? Huh?
After a half day to shopping.
Yes, okay, but can you be away 10 days from work? I don't know that everybody can. That's the other thing. So these, both good data, I mean positive things and both negative things, help you as you move forward, help us as we move forward. You know, these are interesting data that you can get. And for medium terms, we have number of applications. Our biggest number of applications was in MENA 2. And there are several different reasons for this. These are regional institutes. When we change the countries and we begin from scratch, the number of applications fall. This was in MENA 3. 3 out of the 4 countries were new to us, so every new thing is difficult. That is true for us, it's true for you in everything you do. In Egypt, I don't know why there was a little bit of a drop, but it was what it was. The number of grant applications, generally increasing in Egypt as well. We had a high number of applications. So that, you know, we can, how to call it, link it to the number of people who were in each institute and so forth. So I'm going to stop there because now we want you to do an exercise about actual, yes, thank you, about actual assessments. So what we're going to do, we're going to give you 2 things. We're going to give you the rubric that we created for the response to the first 4 questions of the pre and post assessment, okay? And I will explain what that means. I think this should be enough for everyone. Yeah, it's mine. Okay? All right. You don't have enough? Yes, there you are. Yes. We don't have long term. I mean, we don't. We have, that's what I said, we are now in the process.
You just look the way you are thinking about this.
Well, we have a survey, but it hasn't, some people have received the survey, some people have not, so it's still a work in progress. Okay, so we gave you this sheet, these sheets here contain all the responses, the possible responses that the person who wrote the questions could come up with. Okay? In this case, it was Nancy Connell. I think most of you have met her. Okay? So she thought, how can people respond to these questions? So everything she could think of, including answers that we got from the assessment that we did from all the institutes, are here. And they have been categorized based on their relation, on their quality as an answer in relation to the question. Okay? So these have then been validated by other people that try to see whether the way the questions and the answers have been scored is appropriate. So what we want you to do, we gave you this, and we gave you the 4 answers to the 4 questions as a sample sheet with answers. And we would like you, first on your own and then as pairs, to score these answers based on this. Okay, so you read first answer, right? What does it say? First question. Identify 2 examples of actions that you consider to be irresponsible research practices. Okay. Answer number 1, stealing funds. You go here and you find the first question and you read and you say, where is stealing funds? Is it underscore 3? Yes, you don't have enough?
No, I don't have it.
Please. Underscore 3, underscore 2, underscore 1, and try to see where you think it falls. And after you do this, then you talk with your next person and you say, do you agree? Don't you agree? Why? What do you think? All right? And after we do that, then we will report out and see how people understood this and how people feel. And I think we will, oftentimes we don't all agree. Even though the rubric is supposed to be as good as we can get it. And the reason we're doing this exercise is because the way people read a question does not mean that this is how you wrote it. And the way people respond to a question doesn't mean that this is how you thought an answer needs to be. So this is about how good our questions to assess people are.